Picture this. A routine traffic stop takes a dark turn when a cop, fueled by hate, does the unthinkable. He punctures a black woman's tire on purpose. But what happens next will leave you speechless. This isn't just another case of abuse of power. This is a story of deep-seated racism and a shocking twist of karma that no one saw coming. Our main character, a hard-working woman just trying to get home, encounters an officer who uses his badge as a weapon. But what he didn't expect was for the universe to strike back in a way that would change everything. Stay with us, because what happens next will shock you to your core. Before we dive in, if you're passionate about justice, hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. And also comment from where in world you are watching this story from. Meet Tara, a schoolteacher who has dedicated her life to shaping young minds. After a long, exhausting day at work, all she wants is to head home, unwind, and find a moment of peace before she dives back into the chaos of lesson planning and grading. It's the kind of day where every little thing has gone wrong, and she's already emotionally drained. As she drives through familiar streets, the sun setting low in the sky, she's thinking about what to cook for dinner. Perhaps pasta, something simple. Her mind is on autopilot, trying to shake off the stress of the day. But just as she turns onto a quieter road, her thoughts are interrupted by something she hoped to avoid. A flash of red and blue in her rearview mirror. The unmistakable lights of a police cruiser blink rapidly behind her, filling her car with a sense of dread. Tara's heart skips a beat. She isn't speeding, she's sure of it, and everything with her car should be in order. So why is she being pulled over? With a sigh, she pulls over to the side of the road and glances into her mirror again. That's when she sees who's stepping out of the patrol car. It's Officer Daniels. The name alone sends a chill down her spine. Daniels is infamous in her community. A man whose reputation for being unnecessarily hard on minorities has made him a figure of fear and resentment. Stories about him circulate constantly. Friends, neighbors, coworkers, everyone has a Daniels story, and none of them are good. This isn't the first time Tara's heard his name mentioned, but this is the first time she's been face to face with the man himself. Tara tries to calm herself. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe this is just a regular stop. Maybe it's just bad luck that Daniels is the one on duty. But deep down, an uneasy feeling creeps up her spine, making the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. Something isn't right. As Daniels approaches her car, Tara rolls down her window, expecting the usual line of questioning. License, registration, the whole routine. But it doesn't come. Instead, Daniels stops short of the window. He doesn't even ask for her documents. He just stands there, his eyes scanning her car with a strange intensity, like a predator sizing up its next move. He doesn't speak. He doesn't explain why she's been pulled over. Instead, he starts to move slowly around the vehicle, his boots crunching against the gravel on the roadside. Tara watches him in the mirror, her heart pounding in her chest as he moves with deliberate slowness. There's something unsettling about the way he circles the car, like a lion stalking a gazelle, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. Her grip on the steering wheel tightens, her knuckles turning white as she forces herself to stay calm. But calm is hard to maintain when every nerve in her body is screaming that something is terribly wrong. Why isn't he talking? Why is he just staring? Tara's eyes flicker between her side mirror and her rear view, tracking his every movement as he completes his slow circle of the car. She feels exposed, vulnerable, like she's being hunted, and the pit of her stomach twists into knots. The seconds feel like hours. Then, without warning, Daniels abruptly turns and walks back to his patrol car. For a brief moment, Tara allows herself to hope that maybe it's over. Maybe he's going to check her information. Maybe he'll just give her a warning for whatever minor infraction she's committed. But that hope dies the moment she sees him return. This time, he's not holding a ticket book or a pen. No, in his hand is something far more sinister, a pocket knife. The metallic glint catches the last rays of the setting sun, and Tara's stomach drops. What is he doing with that? Why does he need a knife for a traffic stop? Daniels walks with purpose, his eyes fixed on Tara's front tire. Without a word, without explanation, he crouches down next to her car and plunges the blade into the rubber. The sound is immediate, A sharp hiss as the air escapes, deflating the tire in a matter of seconds. The car sinks slightly, its weight settling awkwardly as the tire crumples under the loss of pressure. Tara is frozen in shock. Her mouth opens, but no words come out. She watches in disbelief as Daniels rises to his feet, sliding the knife back into his pocket like it's the most normal thing in the world. His face is cold, emotionless, as he stares down at the damage he's inflicted. This is no misunderstanding. This isn't about a broken taillight or a speeding ticket. It's not even about enforcing the law. This is a display of power, pure and simple. Daniels doesn't just want to intimidate, he wants to send a message. He wants Tara to know that he has control, that he can do whatever he wants, and that she's powerless to stop him. Tara's heart is racing now, panic setting in. What's she supposed to do? Confront him? Run? Call for help? Her mind races with a million thoughts, but one thing is crystal clear. This encounter isn't about traffic violations or public safety. It's about fear. It's about control. And right now, Daniels holds all the cards. Tara, shaken but refusing to let fear consume her, takes a deep breath. She won't cower. Not now, not ever. With her hands trembling slightly, she steps out of the car, her legs feeling wobbly but her resolve unshakable. Every step toward Officer Daniels feels like crossing a line she can't come back from, but she's determined. She won't be silenced by intimidation. "Excuse me, what the hell are you doing?" Tara demands, her voice firm even though her heart is hammering in her chest. She locks eyes with Daniels, refusing to break her gaze. There's anger bubbling up inside her, raw and unfiltered. How dare he treat her like this? Like she's nothing. Like he can just walk all over her without consequence. Daniels doesn't flinch. He doesn't even seem fazed by her question. Instead, he smirks, the kind of smirk that drips with arrogance and entitlement. He watches the air continue to hiss out of the tire, the car sinking lower as if this is all some kind of twisted game. He doesn't offer an explanation, doesn't even pretend to care. It's clear to Tara now, this was never about law enforcement. It's about dominance, about making her feel small. In that moment, she knows she's being targeted. There's no mistake about it. But what can she do? The power dynamic feels impossibly one-sided. Daniels has the badge, the authority, and a whole system that will back him up. But despite the heavy weight of fear pressing down on her, Tara refuses to be a victim. Not today. Not ever. Determined to fight back, Tara begins to dig deeper. Over the next few days, she starts talking to people, other minorities in the community who've had their own run-ins with Officer Daniels. The stories are chillingly similar. Turns out this wasn't an isolated incident. Daniels has been pulling stunts like this for years. Intimidation tactics, harassment, bullying, he's used it all. But no one has ever dared to push back. No one has ever felt like they had the power to take him on. Yet something inside Tara shifts. The more she hears, the more she learns about Daniel's reign of terror, the angrier she becomes. She's not just another person who got unlucky. This is a pattern, a deliberate act of cruelty. And that's when she makes a decision. She won't be another statistic. She won't be another victim whose story fades into the background. She'll stand up, not just for herself, but for everyone Daniels has ever wronged. She begins to gather evidence, documenting everything she can. She records her conversations with others who have suffered under Daniel's abuse of power, meticulously collecting their stories. She takes photos of the damage he caused to her car, keeps logs of every interaction, and, most importantly, starts recording every time she crosses paths with him. If she's going to fight this, she's going to need proof, solid, irrefutable proof. Tara knows the road ahead won't be easy. Going up against a police officer is no small feat, especially one with a history like Daniel's. The system is stacked against her, and there are people in town who'll no doubt side with him. But she doesn't care. Tara's fire is lit, and she's ready to burn down the walls of silence that have allowed this injustice to thrive. What Tara doesn't realize is that there's a twist coming. She's prepared for a fight, prepared for pushback, but there's something in Daniel's past, something dark and hidden, that she hasn't uncovered yet. And when she does, It's going to change everything. Days later, just as Tara is settling into the rhythm of her plan, she receives a message from an anonymous source. It's cryptic but intriguing, urging her to dig deeper into Officer Daniels' background. The message claims that Daniels isn't as untouchable as he seems. He has skeletons in his closet, and big ones. Curious and cautiously hopeful, Tara follows the lead, and what she uncovers blows the case wide open. Daniels has secrets, dirty ones. Turns out, he's been under investigation for corruption for months. Internal Affairs has been building a case against him, but the pieces just hadn't fallen into place. His intimidation tactics, the abuse of power, it's all part of a much larger pattern. And Tara's incident? That was the final straw. It was the tipping point they needed to finally bring him down. But karma, it seems, isn't done with Officer Daniels just yet. The very night he punctured Tara's tire, leaving her stranded and shaken, he found himself in a situation that would flip the script. As he's patrolling later that evening, he gets caught up in a high-speed chase with a suspect. It's a routine pursuit until the tables turn in a way Daniels never saw coming. The suspect, desperate to escape, manages to outmaneuver him, driving erratically, swerving through traffic, and then, in a perfect twist of irony, punctures Daniels' tire with debris on the road. The tire blows out, and Daniels loses control of his cruiser. His car spins wildly before crashing into the median. The very crime Daniels committed, sabotaging Tara's vehicle, comes back to haunt him in the most poetic way possible. The officer who prided himself on instilling fear and asserting dominance is now the one facing the consequences of his reckless actions. When Tara gets the news, she can't help but feel the weight of poetic justice. Daniels, the man who had tried to make her feel small and powerless, is now facing his own downfall. The universe, it seems, has a way of balancing the scales, and Daniels is suspended from the force pending further investigation. But the story doesn't end there. Tara's role in this saga takes another unexpected turn when she's contacted by investigators. They need her to testify. The evidence she gathered, the courage she showed in standing up against him, has become key to building the case. Now, she has the chance to make sure Daniels is held accountable, not just for what he did to her, but for all the victims who never had the chance to fight back. As she walks into the courthouse, Tara feels a sense of vindication. She didn't just survive her encounter with Daniels, she helped bring him to justice. And as she takes the stand, she knows one thing for sure. This isn't just a personal victory. It's a message to anyone who has ever abused their power. Karma doesn't miss. Justice doesn't always come the way we expect. But in this case, karma orchestrated its perfect symphony. For years, Officer Daniels used his badge as a weapon, a tool of fear rather than protection. He believed he was untouchable, that his position of authority would shield him from any consequences. But now, that very badge has been stripped from him, and the truth is laid bare for all to see. Daniels isn't just an officer who crossed the line. He's a corrupt, hateful man whose actions have finally caught up with him. As the charges pile up, misconduct, abuse of power, corruption, it becomes clear that Daniels' days of terrorizing the community are over. His uniform, once a symbol of authority, has become a reminder of his disgrace. No longer shielded by the system he once manipulated, Daniels faces a future where the roles are reversed, and for the first time in his life, he's on the wrong side of the law. The courtroom where he once felt invincible is now a place where he will be judged, not just by his peers, but by the very people he thought he could control. Tara, standing outside the courthouse, feels a mixture of emotions. There's no denying the satisfaction that comes with knowing justice has been served. But this isn't just about revenge for her. It's about reclaiming her power. In the face of intimidation and fear, she stood up, not just for herself but for all the people Daniels victimized. She refused to be silenced, refused to let fear dictate her life, and in doing so, she turned the tide of her own story. Walking away, Tara feels a sense of closure she never thought possible. This wasn't a fight she chose, but it's one she's proud to have seen through. She could have stayed quiet, could have let Daniel's actions go unchallenged like so many before her, but she didn't. And that choice has made all the difference. Now, instead of being just another victim in Daniel's long history of abuse, Tara is a symbol of resilience, of what happens when courage meets determination. As for Daniels, he'll have plenty of time to reflect on his actions from the wrong side of the law. The smug confidence he once wore like armor is gone, replaced by the grim reality of his situation. The power he so desperately clung to has crumbled, leaving him to face the consequences of his own making. Every misstep, every act of cruelty, every life he tried to ruin is now a part of the case against him. He no longer gets to call the shots. His future is now in the hands of a system that he spent years abusing. And as Tara looks back on everything that's unfolded, she knows one thing for sure. Justice might take its time, but when it arrives, it can be as swift and poetic as karma itself. Daniel's fall from grace is more than just punishment. It's a reminder that no one, no matter how powerful they think they are, is immune to the consequences of their actions. If the story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts below. Justice may be slow, but it always finds its way. Stay tuned for more stories that challenge the systems of power.